Thanksgiving was supposed to be about gratitude, but that night, gratitude died in my house. I can still see my father's eyes across the table, cold and sharp under the chandelier's glow, when he leaned forward and whispered words that cut deeper than any knife. The best gift would be for you to be gone. For a moment, the clinking of silverware froze. My children's forks hung midair, and I felt every scar of sacrifice I had ever made burn inside me. 15 years of carrying him after my mother died. 15 years of paying debts, keeping the lights on, covering the bills he couldn't face. And yet, in that instant, I wasn't a daughter, I was an obstacle. I swallowed the lump in my throat and smiled through the sting. If disappearing was the gift he wanted, then I would give it to him, but not the way he imagined. The turkey smelled rich and golden, the cranberry sauce gleamed like jewels on the table, and for a moment, I almost fooled myself into believing this was a normal Thanksgiving. Lily giggled at something Ethan whispered, and Daniel, my ex-husband, sat stiffly, carving slices of meat he hadn't paid for, as though his silence was contribution enough. Then my father, Michael, cleared his throat. The sound cut through the warmth like a blade. He set down his glass, leaned forward, and looked straight at me. "Emma," he said slowly, like he'd been rehearsing the line for days, "the best gift would be for you to be gone." The words dropped like stones into water. Silence rippled across the table. Lily's fork clattered against her plate. Ethan's eyes widened, and Daniel froze with the knife halfway through the turkey. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the alternative was to collapse right there on the dining room floor. "Gone? That's what you want for Thanksgiving?" Michael didn't flinch. "Yes. You hover over everything. Every decision, every dollar, every move I make, always there, always controlling." "Controlling?" My voice cracked. "Dad, I've held this family together since Mom died. I paid the bills you ignored. I saved this house, and you call that control?" His eyes were colder than the snow pressing against the windows outside. "You think sacrifice makes you a saint? All it makes you is a prison warden. I can't breathe with you here." My throat burned. I wanted to scream, to throw my glass against the wall, to demand he take the words back. But all I did was sit there, my hands trembling against the edge of the table, trying to hold on to whatever dignity I had left. Daniel shifted in his chair, murmuring, "Michael, maybe—" "Stay out of it," my father snapped, not even glancing at him. His target was me, and only me. The fire behind him crackled, shadows dancing across the mantel where Mom's picture still smiled from better days. Her absence was a wound I'd never stopped bleeding from, and now my father twisted the knife deeper. I forced myself to meet his gaze. "Fine. If my being gone is the gift you want, Dad, then you'll get it." I stood, the chair scraping against the hardwood like a scream. Lily whispered, "Mom?" Ethan's lips trembled, but I couldn't answer them. Not yet. I turned, walked out of the dining room, and left the warmth behind me. As the kitchen door swung shut, I caught one last glimpse of Michael's face. Satisfied, as if finally unshackled. He had no idea what kind of freedom I was about to give him or what it would cost. The kitchen was cold compared to the dining room, the fluorescent light harsh and unforgiving. I gripped the counter and tried to steady my breathing. His words still echoed. "The best gift would be for you to be gone." They looped in my mind like a cruel refrain, erasing the laughter of my children, the clatter of dishes, the smell of turkey. And suddenly, I was 10 years old again. I remembered sitting in Dad's workshop, legs dangling off a stool too high for me, holding a wrench twice the size of my hand. He used to call me, "my little helper." I'd beam with pride every time he ruffled my hair. Back then, his voice was warm, his eyes alive. But those eyes had died the day Mom, Grace, left us. I saw it as clearly as if it were yesterday. The funeral, the gray December sky heavy with snow. Dad collapsed onto my shoulder, sobbing like a broken child. I was barely 20, but that day I became his rock. I promised myself I would carry him, no matter how heavy the load. I kept that promise at a cost I didn't realize until tonight. I remembered the bills piled high on the kitchen table. "Emma, can you just cover this month's mortgage?" he'd ask, his voice trembling. I covered it. Again and again, until my paychecks disappeared before I even saw them. I remembered the late-night phone calls, his voice desperate. The credit card's overdue, they'll shut off the heat. I'd rush to transfer money, heart pounding, because I couldn't bear the thought of him freezing alone. And then the house that should have been our legacy. He was drowning in debt, and Daniel was already between jobs again. I had stepped in, signed the papers, and shouldered the mortgage. I told myself it was love. I told myself Mom would have wanted me to keep us all together. But tonight, I realized the truth. Every sacrifice I made only dug the chains deeper. The memories twisted inside me. Dad holding me at the playground swing, pushing me higher, shouting, "You can do it, Emma." And now, decades later, the same man telling me I was the problem. How did we get here? I pressed my palms into my eyes until stars burst behind them. My chest felt like it might split open. It wasn't just betrayal, it was grief, all over again. Losing my mother had nearly broken me, but at least then I had Dad to hold on to. Now I had no one. I sank into the chair by the window, staring at the snow piling outside. Each flake fell silently, covering the street, covering the world, like time itself trying to erase everything. But some words could never be erased. They carved scars too deep. I whispered into the empty kitchen, barely audible even to myself. If he wants me gone, then gone is what he'll get. I don't even remember walking back into the dining room. My legs carried me like a ghost, numb, but my heart pounded like a war drum inside my chest. Everyone looked up when I returned Michael with his cold, unreadable eyes. Daniel still sawing mechanically at his turkey, pretending silence made him invisible. Lily and Ethan watching me as if I might shatter at any second. I sat down, reached into my purse, and pulled out an envelope. My fingers shook as I slid it across the table toward my father. "Happy Thanksgiving, Dad," I whispered. He raised an eyebrow, tore it open, and unfolded the check. $10,000. Enough to erase the credit card debt he'd been drowning in. Enough to buy him breathing room he hadn't earned. His lips barely moved. "That's it?" The words sliced through me harder than his earlier wish for my absence. I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "Excuse me?" Michael tossed the check back on the table like it was a grocery coupon. 10,000? After all the control you've had over my life, that's what you think will make things better? Heat rushed up my neck. My hands clenched into fists against the table. Control? Are you serious? I've bailed you out more times than I can count. Mortgage, utilities, food on this table, and you call that control? You did it for yourself, he spat, to keep me under your thumb, to make sure I'd always need you. Need me? I was on my feet now, voice shaking. You think I wanted to stay up at night, calculating how to cover your debts while raising my kids alone? You think I enjoyed watching Daniel sit around unemployed while I worked double shifts? Do you think I liked being your safety net? Daniel flinched at his name but said nothing. Typical. Michael's face hardened. You don't give without strings, Emma. You never have. You're just like your mother. Don't you dare! My voice cracked like thunder. Don't you dare drag Mom into this. She gave her life for this family, and you let it crush her. I picked up where you failed, and now you want to tell me I'm the problem? The chandelier above trembled slightly, or maybe that was just my vision blurring with rage. Lily whispered, Mom, please. Ethan pushed his chair back, tears brimming in his eyes. But I couldn't stop. Not anymore. You want me gone, Dad? Fine. But remember this, when I disappear, I'm taking with me everything you've leaned on for the last 15 years. Every bill paid, every roof over your head, every breath of security you never earned. You'll finally know what freedom tastes like. For the first time all night, his face faltered. Just for a flicker. But I caught it, and in that moment, I knew. He had no idea what I was capable of when pushed to the edge. I shut the door to my room with more force than I meant to. My body trembled, but not from fear anymore. It was rage, pure, sharp rage that kept me upright. On the dresser, the stack of files I'd kept hidden for years sat like a silent witness. I dragged them out, scattering paper across the bed until every line of ink screamed back at me. The deed, the mortgage statements, my signature, not his. I ran my fingers down the numbers 15 years, Payment after payment, sacrifice layered on sacrifice, over $300,000, all mine. All poured into the house he now claimed as his prison. He wants me gone? I muttered to the empty room, the words slicing the air. Fine. Let him see what gone really means. I grabbed my calculator, punching numbers like they were enemies. Mortgage, $287,000. Credit cards, $18,000. Emergency loans, repairs, school costs another $40,000 at least. Nearly $350,000 of my life spent holding him afloat. The papers blurred for a moment as my vision stung with tears. Not tears of weakness this time. Tears of clarity. I remembered Mom Grace, her voice soft but steady as she used to warn me. Emma, don't let kindness be mistaken for weakness. For years, I ignored her, convincing myself love and duty were the same thing. But tonight, staring at the proof in black and white, I realized I hadn't been a daughter, I'd been a crutch. I picked up the deed, held it like a weapon. My name glared back at me. Emma Harris. Not Michael, mine. A laugh bubbled out of me, bitter, broken, but freeing. He thought I was powerless. He thought I existed to serve him. But the truth was right here in my hands. I wasn't the dependent one. He was. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't dialed in years. David Mitchell, the lawyer Mom once trusted. I hovered for a second, then pressed call. His voicemail answered, but I didn't hang up. David, it's Emma, I said, voice steadier than I felt. I need to talk to you. It's about the house. Call me back as soon as you can. When I hung up, I stared out the window at the falling snow, blanketing the world in white. For the first time in years, I didn't feel suffocated by it. I felt ready to disappear. But on my terms, I gathered the papers, tucked them into a folder, and set it on the nightstand like a battle flag. My decision was made. Tomorrow, Michael would wake up believing he'd broken me. Tomorrow, he would discover the truth. I wasn't the one leaving empty-handed. He was. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a call from David. His voice was calm, measured, but I could hear the curiosity underneath. Emma? You said it's about the house? Yes, I breathed. I need the truth. I need to know what's mine. By noon, I was sitting in his office, snow melting off my boots onto the polished floor. He spread the documents across his desk, scanning line after line with a practiced eye. I sat there, my stomach in knots, waiting for a verdict that felt like life or death. Finally, he set the papers down, removed his glasses, and looked straight at me. Emma, this house is legally yours. Every payment is tied to your account. Your name is on the deed. Michael has no ownership stake. For a second, the world tilted. Relief flooded me, chased immediately by a surge of rage. My father had dared to call me a prison warden, yet all along, he was the trespasser. David, I whispered. Can I take it back? He leaned forward, folding his hands. Emma, you never lost it, but if you want him out, you have every right. There's a process. You serve a notice to vacate. 14 days. No excuses. The words struck like thunder. I felt my chest rise and fall, faster, sharper. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't trapped. I was holding the sword now. David slid a printed document across the desk. This is a standard 14-day notice. Once he receives it, if he refuses to leave, you can file for legal eviction. But Emma, he hesitated. Family doesn't forgive this easily. Once you hand this over, there's no going back. I stared at the paper. My hands shook as I picked up the pen. He told me the best gift would be my absence, I said. Fine, but the gift he's getting is his absence. From my life. From my house. David studied me a moment, then gave a solemn nod. Then sign. The pen scratched across the page. With every letter of my name, it felt like shackles breaking. That night, back at the house, I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Michael had humiliated me. In front of me lay the notice, folded inside a manila envelope. I picked up my pen again, this time to write a letter. Not of apology, not of explanation, but of finality. Michael, you wanted me gone. Tonight, I am. But not the way you imagined. The mortgage is paid, the house is mine. You have 14 days to vacate, or legal eviction will follow. This is not cruelty. This is consequence. Emma. I stared at the words until my vision blurred. My chest heaved with something between grief and triumph. Tears spilled down, hot and silent, but my lips curved into a bitter smile. I placed the letter with the notice, sealed the envelope, and slid it beneath the crystal vase Mom had loved. It caught the light, scattering rainbows across the wall like a silent witness. Tomorrow, when Michael sat for breakfast, he'd have to move Grace's vase to read his fate. The symbolism made my throat ache. I whispered into the still kitchen, "You'll finally know what freedom tastes like, Dad. And so will I." I booked the ticket at midnight, the glow of my laptop painting my face in pale blue. Hawaii. 2 weeks. A one-way escape from the prison I'd lived in for half my life. My fingers hovered for a moment over the confirm purchase button, then I clicked. The email confirmation arrived instantly. Flight leaves at 9 a.m., Tuesday. The next morning, I packed in silence. The zipper of my old suitcase sounded too loud, like a warning bell. Lily and Ethan were at Daniel's for the weekend, mercifully spared from this storm. It was just me, the house, and the envelope waiting under Mom's vase in the kitchen. At dawn, I stood by the front door. My hand lingered on the knob. The house felt different, lighter, emptier, like it already knew I was gone. I whispered, "Goodbye, Mom," and stepped into the icy air. The Uber driver didn't talk much. Good. My thoughts were screaming loud enough. By the time I reached the airport, my phone buzzed again and again in my coat pocket. Michael. He must have found the envelope. For half an hour, I ignored the calls, letting the phone shake against my thigh. But at the gate, just before boarding, I answered. "Emma!" His voice roared down the line, jagged with panic. "What is this? You can't do this to me." I inhaled slowly, steadying my voice. "Read the notice, Dad. 14 days. The house is mine." "This is insane," he shouted. "You're abandoning your family. You're cruel." "No," I said calmly. "I'm fair. You said the best gift would be for me to be gone. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for." There was a long pause. I could hear his breath, ragged, furious. Then his voice cracked, slipping into something weaker, almost pleading. "Emma, please, we can talk about this. Don't leave me like this." Tears stung my eyes, but I kept my tone steel cold. "You left me a long time ago, Dad. You just never admitted it." In the background, I thought I heard Daniel's voice, muffled, trying to calm him. But I didn't care. Michael tried again. "Where are you going? At least tell me where you'll be." "And somewhere you'll never find me." His silence was heavier than the shouting. He finally whispered, broken, "Emma." I ended the call, and for the first time in years, I turned my phone off. Not silent, not ignored, dead. When the boarding announcement came, Flight 472 to Honolulu, now boarding, I stood, lifted my suitcase, and walked toward the gate. My hands no longer shook. My chest no longer burned. As I stepped onto the plane, I looked out the window at the snow swirling across Chicago. The city, the house, my father all shrinking into the distance. He had wanted me gone. And now, I was. But what I left behind on his desk would haunt him far longer than my absence ever could. The air in Honolulu wrapped around me like a warm embrace, humid and sweet, with the scent of plumeria. After years of Chicago winters, it felt unreal to breathe without shivering. I dragged my suitcase through the open-air lobby of the hotel, the sound of waves crashing faintly in the distance. From my balcony, Waikiki stretched out in golden curves, the ocean sparkling like a promise. For a moment, I simply stood there, eyes closed, letting the salt air seep into my bones. I whispered to myself, "This is mine. Finally, mine." The first day, I did nothing but walk barefoot along the sand. The water lapped at my ankles, cool and alive. Children laughed nearby. Tourists snapped photos. But I felt invisible in the best way. No one needed me. No one asked me for anything. I was just Emma, not Michael's daughter, not Daniel's ex, not the family's savior. On the second day, I tried surfing. The instructor, Jake, grinned at me like I was his favorite challenge. First time doing anything just for fun in 15 years, I admitted. He laughed. Then you're gonna love falling. And fall I did again and again, salt water stinging my nose, my body aching from failed attempts. But every fall ended in laughter, real laughter, the kind I hadn't felt in years. By the end, I managed to stand on the board for 3 glorious seconds before tumbling headfirst into the waves. See? Jake said, hauling me up. You can do it. You just have to let go. That night, I wrote in a journal I'd bought from the hotel gift shop. For 30 years, I lived for everyone else. Tonight I laughed for me. On day 4, I hiked Diamond Head. The climb was brutal stairs, tunnels, the sun pressing hot against my back, but when I reached the summit, the view stole my breath. The ocean stretched endlessly, blue upon blue, the city below glittering like a toy town. I stood at the railing, sweat dripping, lungs burning, but my heart felt free. At the top, an older couple asked me to take their photo. They held hands like teenagers. After I snapped the shot, the woman smiled. "Are you here with family?" "No," I said softly. "Just me." "Well," her husband said, his eyes kind. "Sometimes that's the best way to find yourself." Later, over a bowl of poke so fresh it tasted like the ocean itself, I realized how right they were. Every day after, I found new pieces of myself napping under palm trees, buying fresh pineapple at the farmer's market, sitting quietly by the water as the sun painted the sky pink and gold. The silence, once suffocating, was now sacred. One evening, during a luau, fire dancers spun flames into the night sky. The crowd cheered, but I barely heard them. My eyes filled with tears as I thought of Mom. She'd always dreamed of coming here, but never got the chance. "I made it, Mom," I whispered to the fire, my voice trembling. "And I'm finally living for me." For the first time in years, the weight on my chest lifted. The scars of sacrifice were still there, but they no longer defined me. Hawaii had burned away the past and left me something new: hope. 2 weeks later, I stepped off the plane into Chicago's bitter December air. The cold bit at my cheeks, harsh and unforgiving, but it no longer had the power to suffocate me. My suitcase rolled behind me, filled with clothes that smelled faintly of sunscreen and salt water. Hawaii still clung to me, even here. The cab ride home was silent. Streetlights stretched long shadows across the snow as Oak Park crept into view. My chest tightened as the house appeared familiar, imposing, yet strangely smaller than I remembered. The driveway was empty. No Daniel's rusty car, no Michael's battered truck. When I unlocked the front door, the silence rushed out to greet me. Furniture was gone. Their belongings stripped the rooms bare. Only the recliner I'd bought for Mom years ago remained, sitting in the middle of the living room like a forgotten monument. On the kitchen counter, an envelope waited. My name scrawled in Michael's hand. I tore it open. "Emma, you won. We're gone. But don't fool yourself, you chose money over family. Don't expect forgiveness." I read the words twice, then laughed. It was sharp, bitter, but liberating. "No, Dad," I whispered into the empty kitchen. "I didn't choose money. I chose myself." I ripped the letter in half and dropped it into the trash. Walking through the rooms, I saw only dust lines where their furniture had been. Lily's posters were stripped from the walls, Ethan's shelves empty. A hollow ache pulsed in my chest, but beneath it was something steadier: relief. I opened the windows wide. The freezing air blasted in, chasing out 15 years of suffocating tension. Curtains whipped like wings, and for the first time, the house felt like mine. That night, I sat in the recliner with a mug of coffee. My phone buzzed with missed calls and messages from Daniel, even one from an unfamiliar number I knew was Michael. I deleted them all. Then I blocked them. Silence filled the room. Peaceful, final. Later, I dug out a photo of Mom Grace in her yellow sundress, holding me as a child. I set it on the table beside me. Her smile felt alive, approving. "I did it, Mom," I whispered. "I finally let go. I'm free." The house groaned softly in the winter wind, but it no longer sounded like a prison. It sounded like possibility. I didn't know exactly what came next. Sell the house, move back to Hawaii, start fresh somewhere new. But for once, the future wasn't a weight pressing me down. It was wide open. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and breathed deeply. Michael had wanted me gone. He got his wish. But the truth? I had never been more present in my own life.